Hello and welcome to the Munro Method Clancast. I am Jason Munro. This is episode 83. Now, I'm just going on my phone because I'm going to get up what this request was for this podcast episode to get the exact wording. Help for weekends so that it's not a constant undoing of the week. So, the problem with this isn't what you think. You don't need help with the weekends, right? And this is super common, right? People think they need help with the weekends. I need help with the weekends. I need to change the way I eat at the weekends. I need to stop undoing all my hard work and all my progress. And that's not it. The problem with this, it's got nothing to do with weekends. It's got nothing to do with weekdays. It's got everything to do with splitting your diet into two separate parts, right? This is what I do when I'm being good, and this is what I do the rest of the time. Okay, it's black and white thinking, the all or nothing mentality, dichotomous thinking, polarized thinking, however you want to describe it. It's the same old thought pattern that keeps many people stuck, and it all comes down. Most people think that it starts at the weekend, right? The weekend isn't the problem. It's the way that you think during the week that's the problem. It's I'm going to be really good this week. That's the problem. Because if you have a version of yourself that is good, then what does that leave the door open for? A version of you who is bad, who is naughty, who is, I don't know, whatever other words you might use for these things. And it's very similar to, the on-plan, off-plan mentality. During the week, I hear this every day from people who come to work with me inside the Munro Method. We get to their first mini check-in on day 7, and we'll ask them a bunch of questions. And it'll be like, tell me a bit about yourself. What do you think your struggles are with your weight? And, I can be really good during the week, but Friday night, I reward myself, or I see Saturday night as a night to treat myself. And honestly, it's so ridiculously common and prevalent. And like I say, it's got nothing to do with the weekend. Nothing to do with the weekend. Nothing to do with weekdays. Nothing to do with food or alcohol or anything like that, and everything to do with the way that you think. If you followed me on social media for any length of time, or you've been on my mailing list, or even listened to this podcast for any length of time, you probably won't notice it, right? But my content and my perspective and my approach is really starting to shift more towards the mindset stuff. One of the things about mindset is that it doesn't sell, right? People don't want you to change their mindset. People want to lose weight, right? That's it. I want the scales to come down. I want to be X stone. I want to be X dress size. That's what I want. So I have to incorporate that into my marketing, right? People don't want to be sold mindsets. People don't want to be sold lifestyles. People want to be sold weight loss. So there always has to be that weight loss element. But I'm really starting to go down that path now and making it much less about weight, much less about the number on a scale. And it is all about changing what goes on up here as I point to my head, and people listening can't hear it, can't see it. It's about your mindset. So if you want to change your weekend behaviors, you have to change your thinking. You have to stop dividing the week up into two separate parts. Here is how I eat during the week when I have routine, when I'm doing school runs, when I'm planning the dinners for the night, when I'm coming home and cooking. I'm really good during the week. And if I take my lunch to work, then I've got control of all those things. And then it's often the weekend, the lack of routine that's a problem, right? You wake up on Saturday morning, you don't have that same routine that you have Monday to Friday. Oh, what will we have for breakfast today? Oh, I've not really got anything in. I don't really want to have cereal like I have Monday to Friday. What can we do? Let's just go to the shop and get some rolls. Let's go to McDonald's. Let's go to Witherspoon's for a fry up or whatever it might be. And then the second part to this is your relationship with food. Because you should be able to do those things and for it not to cause a problem, for it not to be an issue. And the way that many people's weekends will go is Monday to Thursday, in fact, Monday to Friday lunchtime will be quote unquote good. And then as it gets to, this is me just assuming weekday workers as well, but, as home time starts to come, you're thinking about the weekend, what you're going to do tonight. I'll open a bottle of wine, I'll have a few gins. And then you text your partner, it's like, oh, we could get a takeaway. You start to get him excited about it and you get excited about it. And the trouble with this is people who have a poor relationship with food can't enjoy a takeaway. They enjoy the taste of it. They enjoy the excitement of it. They enjoy the build up to it. They enjoy all that stuff, right? Looking at the menu, thinking what they're going to have, thinking about ordering it, thinking about collecting it or when it's going to be delivered, then eating it, and then afterwards feeling like shit because you are someone who overeats when you have a takeaway. You're someone who thinks they have to get their money's worth, so you put the entire portion out on your plate. You over order because you get carried away because you see lots of things that you want. Like, this is what my wife does. Cost me a fortune. She can't just have whatever the thing is. Oh, we could also get some of that. Oh, and get a portion of that. So you go wild with your order because you can't decide what you want and you want to try a bit of everything. Combined with, I don't waste money, I don't waste food, so I'm going to eat all of this. And now you're left on a Friday night feeling tired, bloated, stuffed, tired, yep. And all these negative feelings attached to it. And if you're someone who has a poor relationship with food, the all or nothing mentality, you are then going to say, fuck it. And this is where that mindset kicks in, where it started on a Friday night, so I might as well keep this going all the way through to Sunday. I've already eaten, insert bad food here, might as well keep going. It makes no sense whatsoever, and yet people still do it. There's an analogy. I love analogies, right? But there's one analogy that I really don't like. I'm going to tell you it because this might just be a me thing. You might understand it. I just think it's so stupid, but I don't know why I don't like it, right? But this is the one that coaches use a lot of the time. If you're someone who eats a bit, what's an example? If you're a person who eats 2 squares of chocolate, and because you've had 2 squares of chocolate and you think you've ruined your diet, you go back and eat the whole family-sized sharing bar. It's like, this is very relevant because I've got a puncture right now. Do you know, I had a puncture last week. It was a big drama because I've got metal dust caps on my stupid car that have rusted and seized on, couldn't get it off, had to ruin the valve, just took the tyre off. I was trying to get to Sports Day at the time. Tyre was completely flat. Had to put my space saver on. Took it to the garage, got the puncture repaired. It was an easy thing. It was a screw, screwed right out, puncture repair, done. New valve on because I wrecked it. Yesterday, I jumped in my car and the tyre pressure thing came on. In the same tyre, the exact same tyre. And I thought, maybe it's just a temperature thing. It was a puncture that was repaired. Maybe it just needs a little bit more air or something because it's not quite right. And I went out this morning, jumped in the car, and the pressure was even lower than it was yesterday. I could still drive it, but I had to pump it up when I came back. Do you know that there's another screw in it? 10 centimetres away from the screw that got taken out last week. Another fucking screw. So that's another puncture repair that I will have to waste time getting fixed. Anyway, back to the point, right? So they say that if you have 2 squares of chocolate and go back and eat the whole bar because you think you've ruined something, it's like getting a puncture and then slashing your other 3 tires because you've got 1 puncture. Well, I've got 1 puncture, the car can't move, it's ruined. Might as well just go slash the rest of them. I don't know why I don't like that. Maybe it's the slashing part. I don't know. But that's what it's like, right? And it makes absolutely zero sense. Here's another example that I've just made up on the spot. Imagine you were trying to save up £1,000 for spending money for a holiday, and you've got £500 in there, and you're doing great with saving. You've been saving for a few months. You're on track, and you decide that you want to buy a new outfit, and that new outfit cost £100, and you take the £100 at the savings account, you buy the outfit, but now there's only £400 in the savings account, and you get pissed off. I've ruined it. I'm not going to make my £1,000 target. Might as well go spend the other £400. Instead of continuing and having £900 instead of £1,000 spending money, you decide to spend it all and have no spending money, right? That's another example. Now, the reason that these aren't great examples is because you don't have the same emotional connection to these things as we do with food. but we also don't have the same level of misunderstanding around food and fat loss and dieting and all the rest of it. People think if you eat 2 squares of chocolate, I don't know what the calories in those would be. Let's say it's 100. If you have 2 squares of chocolate at 100 calories, so what? That's nothing. It's a drop in the ocean. But if you have a whole sharing bar at 1,500 calories, well, that's certainly going to have an impact. A couple of squares of chocolate does not ruin a diet. A takeaway does not ruin a diet if you approach it sensibly. If we stick with the relationship with food stuff just now, like, remember, no food is bad for you. No individual food is inherently bad for you. Remember that thing that I always say? If you were splitting food up into good and bad categories, healthy and unhealthy categories, and I asked you, is lettuce a healthy food or an unhealthy food? You would, of course, say healthy. Of course it's healthy. It's a vegetable. Lettuce is healthy. Now, if I told you that if you ate nothing but lettuce, you would die a long, slow, and horrible death from malnutrition, would you still say that lettuce is a healthy food? Can a food that leads to death be healthy? And it's just a point that really helps. It's just a thing that really helps get the point across that no individual food is healthy on its own or unhealthy on its own. When taken in the context of a diet, absolutely. There are 100% unhealthy diets. Like a diet that consists entirely of lettuce would be an unhealthy diet because, death. But there is like individual foods. There's nothing wrong with individual foods. I can eat chocolate and get on with my life. Another person eats chocolate and it's the end of their world. The chocolate, if I eat a dairy milk, or let's say I eat a Freddo, I will eat a Freddo. I will enjoy said Freddo. I'll make some comment about these used to cost 10p back in my day, and I'll get on with my life. If someone has a poor relationship with food and I hand them a Freddo and they eat it, could be the end of their world. You could hand them it. They would want to say no, but they would really want to say yes. And they go, yes, I'll have it. And they would eat it very quickly. And then their thoughts would set in. Meanwhile, I'm over here thinking about the UFC at the weekend. And they're sitting there going, oh my God, I've just had a Freddo. Oh, but I'm supposed to be dieting. I'm supposed to be watching what I'm eating. I don't even know how many calories are in a Freddo. It won't be much more than 100, I don't think. Alexa, how many calories are in a Freddo?
According to an Alexa Answers contributor, there are 95 calories in a Freddo.
There you go, 95 calories in a Freddo. If that person eats that Freddo and their world is coming down around them, oh my God, I've just eaten chocolate. Chocolate's terrible for you. It's bad. I was trying not to do that. I'm trying to be healthy. I'm trying to be good. I'm trying to lose weight. Oh, I've ruined it. So they go and have something else and they go, well, I've had that now, might as well order a Domino's. And then they wake up the next day and go, fuck it, might as well have the rest of that Domino's for breakfast. And since I've had that Domino's for breakfast, I might as well go to McDonald's for lunch. And since I've had a McDonald's for lunch, I might as well phone a Chinese tonight. And that's the thought pattern that goes. And it all started with a 95 calorie fucking Freddo. And here they are, 5,000 calories deep into eating out. Not because the Freddo did anything, it's just a little frog chocolate. What did a little frog chocolate ever do to anyone? It's everything to do with your mindset, everything to do with what goes on up here. And this is the reason that people get their knickers in a twist about the weekends. Because of the way they think about them. Remember, anything that you put on a pedestal, you will act like a fucking weirdo around it. Right, that's the truth. You put anything on a pedestal, you will act different around it. If you put chocolate on a pedestal, you will act different around it. Think of it this way. When was the last time you ever heard of someone talking about their weekend apple binge? Have you ever heard someone say, oh my God, I had one apple at the weekend. I was like, I fucking ruined it now. I might as well eat the whole bag of apples. Or, I took the grapes out the fridge on Friday night. I had 3 grapes. Before you know it, all the grapes were gone. And then because I did that, I just went, then I ate all the bananas, and then I ate all the plums, and then I ate all the oranges, and I started to feel sick. So then I went and ate what have I not said yet? The pears. Nobody talks like that because we don't put fruit on a pedestal like that. We don't think of it as bad. We don't think of it as a treat. We don't think of it as a reward. We don't think of it in any negative way at all. And that's why you don't act like a dick around fruit. It's why you don't binge on vegetables. It's why you're not snacking on carrots in front of the TV. But bring something bad into the equation, bring something that creates something I've not even spoken about yet, and I should have, is guilt, right? If you create the idea that you are doing something bad, if you think something's a bad food, you are creating the idea of wrongdoing. And if you create the idea of wrongdoing, you are creating guilt. And it's that guilt that we react to. Remember, God, there's so much to dive into here that I'm not even touching on yet. If you think about the Freddo situation, right? If you eat a Freddo and then you go eat something else, it's really important to know that you're not eating something else because you ate a Freddo, right? The Freddo was just the start point, the catalyst. You go and eat something else because of how you feel, right? So you wanted to have the chocolate, so you had the chocolate. Now you forget about that. Now what you're left with is how you feel about that decision, right? This has got nothing to do with the chocolate anymore. What takes over now are your thoughts. So you had the chocolate and now you're thinking about it. Oh my God, that was bad. I shouldn't have done that. You know, I've already had chocolate today. I've not even had my dinner yet. Blah, 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 blah. Every decision that you make after that is then in response to how you feel. So now you're emotionally eating, essentially, right? You're not doing these things because you ate chocolate, because I ate chocolate and I didn't do those things. I ate chocolate and now I'm thinking about the UFC at the weekend. I'm not even thinking about the Freddo anymore. It's a distant memory. And so how can I think like that, but you think differently? How can I do it? You know, if chocolate was the problem, how can everybody have a different experience with chocolate? They can. You know, if chocolate was the problem, every single person would have the same reaction to chocolate and every single person would react the same way. So the chocolate isn't to blame. It's entirely self-created. It's all in your mind. And when I say it's self-created, that's a bit unfair. I mean, it's accurate, but it's not necessarily self-created. It could have been taught to you by a parent, by a grandparent, by a teacher at school. It could be something that was given to you at Slimming World, at Weight Watchers, through following terrible people on social media. Like you've learned it from somewhere. But we also then create our own little things around it. We create our own stories that we tell ourselves around them. We create our own rituals. Well, I've done this, so when I do that, this is what I do for the next 3 days, type thing. So everything that you do after that is in response to your thoughts. So these foods are never the problem. Your thoughts are the problem. Your mindset is the problem. The way that you think about these foods is the way that you will act around these foods. And again, coming back to the guilt thing, here's something. If you're going to write something down, if you're the type of person that takes notes like me, I don't write them down often. I type them in my little notepad on my phone. If you want to type something in your phone or a little quote or something to write on a story on Instagram and then quote me, maybe I should get people to do that more often. Make it this, right? You will never have a positive experience with a food you believe to be bad. So again, you will never have a positive experience with a food that you believe to be bad. If you believe chocolate is bad, you will always feel bad when you eat it. And if you feel bad when you eat it and you respond to those bad feelings with other behaviors, you will always do that stuff when you have the chocolate. And this is why it's so important to cultivate a neutral relationship with food where nothing is good, nothing is bad. There is just food, and it all has its place within the balance. I know this is kind of drifting. It's not necessarily drifting off topic. It's not specific about the weekend, but it's a key driver behind why people act the way they do at the weekend. Like the weekend, Saturday and Sunday are just 2 days of a 7-day week, right? It's 2 days with different names, but we put the weekend on a pedestal, and we put the things that we do at the weekend on a pedestal, and that's why we act differently. But a lot, I mean, if we keep it relevant to the question that was asked, like, you know, how do I stop doing whatever at the weekends? It comes from working on your relationship with food, your relationship with alcohol, your relationship with your mind and the way that you think about these things. Do you know, I'm going to tell you something that I had a chat with someone on a check-in yesterday, and she said something about chocolate, and it was an angle that I had never thought about this from before, right? So she uses chocolate. Oh, let me get the specifics right in my head. She has a complicated relationship with her mum, and as soon as she comes off the phone to her mum, she's usually anxious, but she doesn't like it when the phone goes and it's her mum because she's wondering what the drama's going to be this time. It's the same when she has to phone her mum, and as soon as she comes off the phone, she goes and gets chocolate. And this is a double-edged sword, right? Because she then went on to say, like, even when I'm eating chocolate and it's not like that, I still act like this around it. And I kind of said to her, like, you've created a world where you need whatever chocolate gives you, right? You don't need chocolate. You need how chocolate makes you feel. That's what's wrong, right? You have these difficult conversations with your mum. You excuse me. That came out of nowhere. You have these difficult conversations with your mum that leave you feeling like this, right? They leave you feeling in a certain way. You don't have the capacity to change that feeling. You don't know how to change that. You don't know how to get rid of it. You don't know how to accept it, to acknowledge it, to process it. Right, and this is more emotional regulation than anything else. But what you have discovered is that when I feel like this, if I eat chocolate, chocolate helps me feel like this. So yes, chocolate tastes great, but you know, when we reach for foods in response to something, it's not because we want to eat that food. It's not because we want to taste that specific food necessarily, although that can be a part of it. It's what that food signifies to us, what it does for us, the feeling that we get inside when we're eating that thing, the comfort that we find in that sensation. That's what we crave. Or it could even just be that I know that when I feel like this, I struggle to make that feeling go away because I don't want to feel like that anymore. But I've discovered that when I eat chocolate, chocolate makes me feel like this and it makes that go away. Even if it is just fleeting. That's how we make these connections with food. But it's a double-edged sword because if you love chocolate, but and she, from the way that she said this, it sounds like it's something that she does often. Uses chocolate a lot. Let's say that life is good. Let's say that she's not spoken to her mum for a while. She's not getting any of those horrible feelings. She's not stressed or, you know, whatever other reason she might reach for chocolate. And she decides one day that, oh, do you know what? I feel pretty good. I am going to go and sit in front of the TV, watch an episode of something with a cup of tea and a Freddo. Let's just keep the Freddo stuff going. So she goes and gets a Freddo. And she has the Freddo. But now what she's done is reverse she's reversed she's Uno reversed herself into that horrible feeling because it's a two-way street. When I feel like this, I eat this food to distract myself from that feeling. But now she's done it in the opposite direction. She's done the chocolate thing first, and the chocolate thing takes her right back to the times, you know, when I eat that food. You know, when you smell something or you hear something or you see something and it gives you that kind of nostalgic feeling like, oh, that reminds me when I was a kid. That reminds me of my mum's cooking. No, not my mum's cooking. Fuck me, my mum cannot cook. My dad can cook. That reminds me of my grand's cooking would be a better one. um, uh, so you get, there's that association by smell or sight or whatever it is. Well, it's the same thing where if someone uses a food in a negative way often enough, and then they try to use it in a positive way, it will drag them right back to that negative situation. This is the thing I taste when I'm feeling like this. This is the food I eat when I'm feeling like this. So it works in reverse as well. And you can absolutely ruin food for yourself by placing it on a pedestal, by attaching it to things. And anyway, and that's a lot of where the weekend stuff comes from, right? It's mostly to do with your relationship with food, with putting things on a pedestal, with making a massive song and dance about the weekend, by getting all hyped up and excited about, oh, what we're going to eat this weekend, what takeaways are we going to get, where are we going to eat out. Anything you put on a pedestal, and I'm not trying to ruin food for you. I'm not trying to ruin takeaways for you, but it shouldn't be that you get excited about eating them. But ultimately, what is a takeaway? It is your dinner. The same meal you've been eating every night for decades since you were old enough to eat solid foods, only it's cooked by someone else and you go collect it or it's delivered to your door. Yes, it costs more money, but you only need so much food inside your tummy. And if you really struggle with leaving it, then that's an issue. But, once you start approaching things from the angle of, well, I'm going to eat it until I'm full, then I'm going to stop eating. I'm not going to put the entire tub on my plate. I'm going to put out a regular size portion. I'm not going to over order food because I'll feel obliged to eat it. Once you can start approaching these things in a normal way instead of the glorifying way, instead of placing it on the pedestal, then your behavior around it will change. And once you start behaving more normally around these, placing it on less of a pedestal, putting less into it, generating less excitement around it, it then just becomes another meal. Yes, it tastes different. Yes, it's delicious. Yes, there's still the excitement around ordering and all the rest of it. But it then just becomes dinner on another night of the week. That, yes, you didn't cook it, but it's not a massive deal. And then you don't feel like you've done anything wrong because you've managed to enjoy it because it's not a bad thing anymore and all these other things. So the majority of what you experience at the weekend is down to the way that you think about the weekend, the way that you think about the foods that you eat, because the way that you think about these things is the way that you feel about them. And like I said, you will never have a positive experience with something you believe to be bad. And coming back to what the specific question was, like something that was like advice for the weekends without undoing progress. If I'm going to assume that that's um, specific to fat loss. So during the week, you're being really, again, quote unquote, good, and you're losing weight. The only way to undo weekday progress is to overconsume at the weekend. So if you don't want to undo fat loss progress, don't do fat gaining stuff at the weekend. Now that's, you know, uh, a very simplistic approach. If it was that simple, you wouldn't be asking for advice around it. Well, if you don't want to gain weight, don't do stuff that makes you gain weight. Don't eat to excess. Don't drink to excess. Now, it sounds very simple on paper, but like I've just gone through for the last 20 odd minutes, it's the complexities of the way that we think about these things. If you're going to take anything away from this episode, let it be that food doesn't do anything, right? Freddos are just little chocolate frogs that are minding their own business, and it's up to you to learn how to eat that without turning into a lunatic. That's it. I know I'm making a joke about it because I don't like things being too serious all of the time, but the way that you get around these things is the way that you've taught yourself to get. Now, that should be massively empowering because if you can teach yourself to be one way, you can teach yourself to be another way. I used to be like this. 8-9 years ago when I was just starting out on my hashtag fitness journey, hashtag fitfam, hashtag weight loss journey, like whatever other shit I was using when I started my weight loss account. Fitfam was the big one. When I was starting out back then, one of my issues was, well, Friday night I've had a takeaway, so might as well keep it going. Might as well have rolls for sausage for breakfast on Saturday. Might as well go out for lunch. Might as well get a Chinese tonight. That was my attitude. Oh, I've had a drink. Might as well just keep going for the rest of the weekend. Oh, I've already ruined it. I used to think like that. And once you realize that it's the power of your thoughts, everybody thinks they need to change their diet. Everybody thinks the start point is eating different foods. The start point is finding a diet. Start point is researching your diets and finding the one that will help you lose the most weight as quick as possible. That's not the start point. The start point is learning I'm going to swear, is learning who the fuck you are. That's what you need to learn. I'll leave you with this little task, right? I did this with one of my clients today on a check-in. Let's forget calories. Let's forget macros. Let's forget tracking. Let's forget all that stuff. Let's forget fruits, vegetables, and all that stuff, right? get a piece of paper and write down a list of all the things that you do that are related to food. So, for example, at the top of the list should be breakfast, lunch, dinner. If you eat 3 main meals, if you just eat lunch and dinner, write those, right? But write down your primary food sources. Let's go with sources until I think of something better. So I eat breakfast, lunch, dinner, right? That's part one. Now I want you to think about every other thing that you do that you attach food to. So I eat every time I am offered food. I clear every plate. I put out big portions. I eat every time I'm in the car. I eat every time I'm on my way back from the supermarket because I've picked something while I'm in there. I eat every time I pass a McDonald's. I eat every time there are biscuits in the office. What else? Oh, I eat every time I am stressed. I use food to cope with my emotions. I eat when I'm tired. I eat for an energy boost, right? Write down all of these things. Because let's go back to the person I was talking to today, right? She was just under 17 stones. And we were talking about like how much weight she had to lose, how far she had to go, and those kind of things, right? And she's it looked like she's sabotaging herself because she's thinking about how long it's going to take her and all these things. So I'm trying to help her think of that in a different way. And I explained to her that her weight isn't where it is just because she needs a few more vegetables and a little bit more protein, right? To achieve a weight of 17 stone, which is quite a high level of body fat, she has multiple excessive habits that are all adding up to her total daily intake. So you can write all of these things down, and you need to understand yourself first, right? So yes, I'm having breakfast, lunch, and dinner, fine. Yes, I'm having a couple of snacks a day, but I'm also doing a bunch of the things that I've just mentioned. And it's those things that are the issue, right? People want to know, honestly, see the amount of people that ask me for recipes, like as if recipes are going to be the secret to their weight loss, as if a lack of recipes in their life is the reason that they've gained weight. You do not need recipes, you do not need trips, you do not need tips, you do not need hacks. You need to change. You need to understand yourself, first of all, and you need to start working on the right things. You're not going to find the secret to your success in a recipe book, in a fucking air fryer recipe book. Don't get me started on the recipe book stuff. It bugs me. People who build massive followings for Googling recipes and changing one ingredient and putting their own spin on it, like swearing in the video and then, oh my God. See when people take a bite of something and then go, or nod their head or do that okay sign, like, oh my God, shoot me. Anyway, write down this list of things about yourself and understand where all of your eating comes from. Every single little thing that you do, not necessarily on a daily basis, but everything that you attach food to, right? Eating in the car. Every time I'm in my car, I'll eat. Every time I go in a shop, I buy a sweet. Every time I'm in a shop, I buy a bag of crisps. Every time I switch on the TV at night time, I open whatever. I go to the cupboard and grab whatever. Plus everything else, right? All of that you've written down, that is all the reason that your weight is where it is right now. For you to lose weight, you need to start changing these things, right? That does not involve changing your diet. It does not involve changing your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Those things can come later on, but those aren't the reason for your weight. The reasons for your weight are found in all the extra stuff, because you need breakfast, you need lunch, you need dinner. I'm not saying you need every single meal. Let's not go there today, but breakfast isn't the most important meal of the day and blah, blah, blah. But these are your main sources of food, right? They're the ones that meals allow you to achieve balance. They allow you to sit down with your family and eat. And all these other things, right? Those are the important things. It's all this extra stuff that you do. That's the problem. So let's say that you are 17 stone. And we look at this list, right? And let's say that you clear every plate of food that's put in front of you, right? That could be something. If that's having a significant impact, if that's something you do every night, if that's adding 400 or 500 calories on every single night, that could be the thing that takes your weight from 17 stone to 16 stone just by changing that one habit. That one habit could be keeping a stone of additional body fat on your body. So you change that habit, and within however long, your weight comes down to 16 stone. So you look at the list again and say, right, every time I'm in the car, I eat something. And you make multiple trips per day. You grab a snack when you're driving to pick the kids up from school. You grab a snack when you're on your way back from dropping them off in the morning. You stop at the shop and get a bottle of juice and a packet of crisps and a chocolate bar or whatever. I give all these examples because these are what I see people doing when I'm out and about. I know what people do. There's a game I play when I'm driving into the Aldi car park. It's like, look in the car, every person driving out. How many of them are eating? It's just a ridiculous thing that I do, but it helps me become a better nutritionist because I'm observant of these little things that people do. But play that game next time you're going to Tesco or Asda or Sainsbury's or wherever you go. As you're driving into the car park, how many people are driving out the way with something in their hand or their cheek sticking out or whatever? But yeah, I eat every time I'm in the car. So you stop doing that or you make a change to that. And that could be the thing that takes your weight from 16 stone to 15.5 stone. And then you start snacking less in front of the TV, and that's what takes your weight from 15.5 to 14.5. We have 100 different things that we need to be changing before we start looking at, oh, I need to do this with my dinner and do this with my lunch. Yes, you probably do, but you've got plenty of other things to be focusing on. Anyway, that was a super mega tangent that went way off the topic. Don't even know how I got on it, so I can't get back to it. But bringing it to the relevancy of the weekend thing again. Oh, yeah, undoing progress. Nah, I've lost the link. But anyway, it comes back to your relationship with food. It comes back to calling foods good and bad, to thinking of them as healthy, unhealthy, to living a life where you have two separate versions of your diet. I mean, that's another thing we didn't dive into. Having these different versions of your diet. Everything I do inside the Munro Method is about helping people learn to have a single way of eating that includes everything they want to have, because most people have two versions of their diet, right? When they're being good, they're not eating chocolate, they're not eating takeaways, they're not drinking alcohol, they're not eating sweets, crisps, biscuits, etc. But if you like all those things, then what are you doing? How do you bring them into your diet? You can't, because your version of good does not include those things. And that's why you have to be bad or naughty or go off plan or fall off the wagon or whatever it is, because you've created a world where being good means not having those things. But you reach a point where you really want to have those things. You don't know how to fit them into your version of good. And so you have to be bad and cram them all in at once. The way that I do, and that's how you live your life: on plan, off plan, round and round and round. When you're on plan, your weight's going down. When you're off plan, your weight's going up. The way that I do things is about teaching people everything that I've spoke about in this episode, actually, where it's like, these things aren't good. These things aren't bad. Get rid of that idea. Everything that you want to eat and or drink has a place within the balance of your diet every day. Doesn't have to, you're not just allowed to eat these things at the weekend. You're not just allowed to have these things once a month or once a week. You're not only allowed to have chocolate at night in front of the TV. All these rules and regulations that we apply to ourselves in an effort to try and control and manage the way that we eat does more harm than good. So the way that I do things, it's all about trying to help people achieve balance so that they can eat the same all the time. Like, if I wanted to have a takeaway tonight, I would go and get one on a Wednesday night. No, Thursday night. Crazy me. But I could do it if I wanted, but I don't, because I don't. Well, because I've got gusto and I've got gusto to eat Monday to Friday. But it's having that ability to say, I can just have that thing whenever I want it. And that's very scary in the beginning, because people say, well, if I thought like that, I'd have takeaways every night of the week. No, you wouldn't. You wouldn't be spending 200 quid a week on takeaways. Don't be ridiculous. Would it be 237? Maybe 20 to 30 quid, 150 to 200 quid ish. Yeah, so anyway, that's enough for today, because I'm just ranting now. But everything I do inside the Munro Method is about helping people learn how to live for life, not create two separate versions of their diet for them to keep bouncing between. We're trying to resolve that. We're trying to get away from that and just create one diet that you enjoy, that you want to work to all the time, that makes sure your body is getting everything that it needs, but you're also getting the things that you want that don't necessarily give your body what it needs, but they give you what you want. Anyway, that's enough for today. I nearly launched into something, but that's a whole other episode. We'll do that next time. Yeah, enough from me. Speak soon.